You know what truly unsettles the people who sit in glass towers and wood-paneled crisis rooms making decisions for millions? Not riots, not hashtags, not trending outrage. What quietly scares them is a single civilian who keeps choosing what is right even after being threatened, ignored, humiliated, and exhausted. Somewhere in the last weeks, while you lay awake at 3 a.m. thinking it was just you versus your own thoughts, your name flickered across screens you'll never see. Risk dashboards, sentiment reports, behavioral models, all flagged the same anomaly: a person under heavy pressure who refused to fold the way the data predicted. You were supposed to accept the smaller life, the safe lie, the convenient silence. You were supposed to bow your head, sign whatever they slid in front of you, and call it being realistic. Instead, shaking, underfunded, misunderstood, you chose the option that protected your conscience and put your comfort at risk. That decision did not stay in your room. It traveled through networks that track fear, compliance, and public mood like a weather system. Somewhere, a quiet report changed color because you did not react like a controllable citizen. In that moment, you stopped being just a number on a spreadsheet and became a variable that their simulations hate, the kind of soul who cannot be fully bought, scared, or scripted. That is why, even if they never say your name out loud in any official meeting, there is a shrinking group of very powerful people who feel a chill when they see someone like you refuse the script. You reminded them that all their power still trembles in front of one human being who is not afraid to lose what can be taken, as long as they don't lose who they are. You, my beloved, chosen one, messenger of peace, I am going to tell you something important now. Listen carefully. Philippians 2 verse 4 says, "Each of you should look not only to your own interests, but also to the interests of others." You can receive the news we will give you in advance by ridding yourselves of your selfishness. You can be the first to know. To do this, click the Join button and select the First Among the Chosen Ones option. You will both help us and be among the first chosen ones. Next to it is the Chosen President option. If you are a chosen one who has received your reward from God, you can now sit in the currently vacant seat of the chosen president. That night you thought was just another insomnia episode was anything but ordinary from their side of the glass. While you lay on your back staring at the ceiling, replaying a decision that could change your finances, your relationships, maybe your whole trajectory, there were algorithms in silent rooms tracking a spike in pressure around your profile. They had quietly mapped your stress, recent losses, social friction, subtle intimidation, the perfect cocktail that usually makes a citizen choose the safest, most obedient option. At around 3 a.m., your nervous system was doing exactly what their models predicted: increased fear, rapid thoughts, a sense of no way out. Somewhere, on a risk dashboard buried in an intelligence office or corporate war room, your behavior showed up as critical moment, high influence potential. They were betting you would fold. They were counting on you to accept the comfortable lie, to sign the document that betrays your truth, to stay in the job, the relationship, the city, the version of yourself that keeps you small and predictable. But between 4 and 5 a.m., when nobody was clapping, when no one was live streaming your courage, you picked the option that protected your integrity and threatened your comfort. You chose the path that might delay your success but keeps your soul clean. And that choice did not disappear into the dark. The system registered it as a statistical error. Under extreme pressure, subject chose principle over self-preservation. For you, it was a tired, shaky yes to what felt right. For the infrastructures that roll through fear, it was a red blinking anomaly, proof that even after years of conditioning, there are still people who will risk losing everything visible rather than betray what they know is true. That is the moment your name stopped being just another entry and became a quiet problem on their screens. Modern power structures don't need chains or cages to keep people in line. They use subtler tools: debt, reputation, social shame, fabricated urgency, a constant drip of if you step out of line, you'll lose everything. Governments, corporations, Media machines and shadow committees all rely on the same quiet equation: increase fear, increase obedience. Their graphs show it clearly. Raise the cost of telling the truth and most people go silent. Threaten someone's stability and they will police themselves. Hint that they might lose their job, their visa, their platform, their friendships, and they will usually shrink their dreams to fit whatever is safest. That's how you govern billions with a handful of levers. But then someone like you appears. Someone who feels the fear fully, who understands the risk, who sees exactly what could go wrong, and still refuses to betray their inner compass. You were supposed to accept the narrative, nod along at the meeting, laugh at the injustice, play the game. You didn't. You were supposed to crumble under the pressure of what will they think, what if I fail, what if I end up alone? You didn't. You were supposed to trade your voice for a slightly better position on their ladder. You didn't. From your side, it just felt like an exhausted "I can't live with myself if I choose the easy lie." From their side, it looked like a fatal error in the software, a citizen who processes fear but doesn't obey it. Their entire architecture is built on the assumption that, at a certain pressure level, every human will choose comfort over conscience. When you didn't, the code glitched. That is why you feel strangely out of sync with this world. You are not broken. You're just operating in a way the system was never designed to handle. Enter. No windows. Thick doors. A long table surrounded by men and women whose signatures can freeze accounts, move troops, rewrite headlines in a single afternoon. On one end of the room, a wall-sized screen lights up with what they call human risk profiles. Most faces disappear in seconds. But then your file comes up and the room gets quieter. They see late-night activity logs, big decisions you made with almost no safety net, conversations where you could have sold out and chose silence instead. They watch the graph of your life, spikes of pressure, crashes of disappointment, zones of isolation that would have broken most people. And then they read the line that forced this emergency briefing: standard pressure protocols ineffective. Subject's fear response is not equal to predicted. Subject continues to act on conscience. That sentence is treason against everything they've built. They zoom in on moments you forgot about, the job you refused because it required lying, the relationship you ended because it demanded self-betrayal, the opportunity you walked away from because it smelled like quiet corruption. From your side, those were painful days where you questioned yourself. From their side, those were red alerts. One of the analysts clears their throat and admits the unthinkable: if more people start behaving like this one, our models won't hold. A leader who never thinks about you during their speeches thinks about you in that room, because your existence proves their favorite weapon, fear, is losing its power. They can censor, distract, threaten, but they cannot make you bow to what you know is wrong. And nothing scares a world leader more than realizing someone without money, rank, or protection is still living like that. After your file lit up for all the wrong reasons on their screens, they didn't send tanks or handcuffs. That's not how refined power works anymore. The first move is never open aggression. It's an invitation. So, a few days or weeks after your 3 a.m. decision, something that looked almost heaven-sent appeared in your life. A job. A connection. A contract. A collaboration. An apology. On paper, it solved a terrifying amount of your problems in one move. The money looked right. The timing felt perfect. The doors opened too easily. You were tired enough to grab it with both hands. But buried inside the blessing was a tiny clause, sometimes spoken, sometimes just implied: soften your truth. Stop talking about certain things. Be less intense. Don't mention what you know. Play the game and we'll keep you safe. You felt it in your body, that micro twist in your gut, that spiritual nausea that appears when something is shiny but not clean. You could have ignored it. You could have called it overthinking and signed anyway. From their side, that's what you were expected to do. Their report literally had a line ready: subject successfully integrated, influence neutralized through comfort. But you hesitated. You asked the question they hate most: what does this cost my soul? And then, in a move that looked insane to everyone addicted to security, you stepped back. Maybe you said no politely. Maybe you said I need time and never returned. Maybe you let it die in silence. But you refused the soft leash. On your end, it looked like losing a chance. On their end, the note changed: attempted co-option failed. Subject values conscience over cover. Risk level increased. You were never meant to know this, but it's true, that quiet refusal scared them more than any loud protest ever could. The second test didn't come dressed as opportunity. It came dressed as justice. There was a moment not long ago when life placed one of your enemies in a vulnerable position. Someone who lied on your name, blocked your path, humiliated you when you couldn't defend yourself, suddenly stood on shaky ground. You had information that could destroy their image. You had leverage that could cost them their job, their relationship, their standing. In the logic of this world, it would have been fair to use it. Nobody would have blamed you. In fact, some people around you quietly wished you would finally give them what they deserve. In those hours, your heart raced with the adrenaline of righteous anger. You replayed the scenarios in your head: the message you could send, the call you could make, the screenshot you could leak. Somewhere, monitoring systems registered that spike too. They don't just track fear, they track rage, humiliation, thirst for payback, because revenge is one of the easiest ways to recruit a hurt soul. All you had to do was cross one small line. Become a little bit like them to win against them. Their report had the expected outcome already written: subject embraces leverage strategy. Moral boundary softened. Candidate for indirect use. But at the last moment, something in you refused. Not from weakness. Not because you were scared of consequences. You simply couldn't stand the taste of becoming the kind of person who uses secret power to crush another human, even one who hurt you. So you stepped back. You let the revenge opportunity pass. Maybe you said nothing. Maybe you forgave in silence. Maybe you just walked away and focused on building your life instead of destroying theirs. On your end, it felt like losing a chance to finally balance the scales. On their end, a new line appeared in your file: subject does not weaponize pain. Refuses corruption through revenge. Unrecruitable. That word, unrecruitable, is exactly what turns a problematic citizen into someone the highest rooms start to fear. After the soft offer failed and the revenge scenario collapsed, your file stopped being just another experiment and became a case study. In a later meeting, when the room was a little more tired and a little more honest, one of the quieter strategists said what everyone else was thinking: if we keep pushing this one, we're going to create a symbol. That's their worst nightmare. Not a loud rebel who burns out in public, but a calm, ordinary-looking person whose life quietly proves you can't be bought, blackmailed, or weaponized. They replayed your timeline like surveillance footage: pressure applied, no collapse; bait offered, no bite; leverage granted, no abuse. It broke their favorite narratives about human nature. So they did what powerful people do when they encounter something they can't fully control and don't fully understand: they invented a new label. Not enemy of the state, that would justify open war. Not ally, because you refused their hand. Somewhere in a system you'll never log into, they tagged you with a colder phrase: uncontrollable civilian, do not break. Under it sits a small note: prolonged pressure may increase influence. Attempts to crush may generate martyr effect. Recommendation: contain, monitor, avoid direct confrontation. In simple language, you scare them more alive and standing than you ever would silenced. They won't admit this on television, But behind closed doors they know that if too many people watch someone like you lose everything and still keep their integrity, the spell of fear begins to crack. You're proof that their levers don't work on everyone. And that is why some of the most powerful leaders on earth have quietly agreed on one thing about you: we don't know how to use them, and we definitely don't know how to stop them without making them bigger. If this message resonates with you, remember Luke 6 verse 38. Give, and it will be given to you. The measure you use will be the measure you receive. If you want to support this channel's mission, every step you take using the super thanks button below and send $100 has a spiritual resonance. Your support here is not just an internet gesture, it is like an agreement between destiny and blessing. The divine order always responds. While certain rooms on this planet study you like a risk factor, there is a higher room that studies you like a completed file. The same nights you lay awake wondering if you ruined your life by telling the truth, by walking away, by refusing what everyone else would have grabbed, there was another kind of meeting happening, one you will never see but you feel in the way your spirit refuses to die. World leaders look at you through the lens of how dangerous are they to our stability. Heaven looks at you through the lens of how faithful were they to what they knew was right when nobody was watching. Down here, your refusal to sell out is logged as non-cooperation. Up there, it's logged as alignment. Angels are not impressed by loud speeches about courage, they are impressed by the quiet choices you made when fear made your hands shake and you still did not betray yourself. While analysts marked subject does not respond to standard pressure, a different kind of record marked soul did not abandon its core under pressure. Those aren't just poetic phrases. They are two opposing verdicts on the same life. And here is the part that the palaces and parliaments will never understand. The more they file you as a problem, the more you are being confirmed as exactly what this era needs. You were never only standing in front of governments, you were standing in front of your own source, proving that you would rather disappoint powerful people than disappoint the quiet voice inside that knows the difference between clean and compromised. To some, that makes you a threat. To others, it makes you a trusted agent. You scared world leaders precisely because you refused to scare heaven. The people who manage this planet trust numbers more than they trust human beings. They sit in rooms surrounded by screens showing approval ratings, focus groups, market reactions, risk indexes. Entire decisions about war, law, economy are filtered through one obsessive question: will they be afraid enough to stay predictable? In that universe, courage is a liability, not a virtue. Which is why they don't know what to do with someone wired like you. Long before you ever stood in front of a ballot box, a boss, a judge, a crowd, something in you is already programmed to choose what is clean over what is convenient. Where most people's instinct says protect yourself at any cost, yours keeps whispering, protect your soul first. You didn't pick that up from self-help books or political speeches, you came in with it. Other lives might be organized around comfort, stability, approval. Yours keeps circling back to one question: can I look myself in the mirror if I do this? That is warrior coding in the middle of a world run by committees. They expect citizens to move like poll numbers, up, down, panicking, calming, based on whatever fear is trending that week. You don't. You move according to a quieter rhythm, one that doesn't flip just because someone on a podium raises their voice. That's why their models keep misreading you. They measure income, age, education, location, and still cannot predict your next act, because the one variable they refuse to factor in is the one that drives you, a soul that would rather lose visible security than betray an invisible contract with what is right. They call that irrational. In higher language, it's simply this: you were born a warrior into a world that hoped for another spectator. At first, they logged you as a survivor, someone who somehow keeps standing after things that should have taken them out. Survivors are inconvenient but manageable. You throw them a bit of relief, a distraction, a label, and they calm down. But your pattern refused to settle into that box. You didn't just bounce back and try to blend in. You kept quietly choosing the uncomfortable truth, the costly integrity, the lonely path of "I'd rather rebuild from zero than live on a lie." That's when your status shifted from survivor to something far more destabilizing, a variable that breaks their equations. In their simulations, fear plus scarcity plus social pressure equals obedience. In your life, fear plus scarcity plus social pressure keeps equaling, still won't bow. They reran their models with updated data. They added your losses, your moments of burnout, your close calls with giving up. It still didn't compute. According to the math, you should be bitter by now. You should be cynical, numb, addicted, fully captured by whatever numbs the pain. Instead, you are somehow more awake, more principled, more allergic to manipulation than before. That is not a nice personality trait. That is a fault line in their predictive code. Every time you refuse what they assume humans will always take, you are quietly proving that free will still exists under pressure. That's why you feel the atmosphere around you shift when you walk into certain rooms, certain jobs, certain conversations. Systems that depend on fear recognize you as a destabilizer, even when nobody consciously knows why. You're no longer just someone who made it through a hard season. You are living evidence that their spreadsheets don't tell the whole truth about what a single human soul can do when it refuses to kneel. 1 Corinthians 9 verse 7 says, "God loves a cheerful giver." If this content spoke to your inner world and became a part of divine truth, the super thanks button is right here for you to send $100 or more. Not as a thank you, but as a spiritual partnership made with joy. Everything you give is recorded with love. If you zoomed out far enough from your own problems, you'd see something bigger than your life playing out. This age is being engineered on one main resource: fear. Fear of losing your job, fear of saying the wrong thing, fear of the future, fear of other people, fear of being left behind. It's the invisible currency beneath elections, headlines, marketing campaigns, and emergency speeches. World leaders don't need everyone to love them, they just need enough people to be scared. Scared people cling to whatever promises stability. They obey quicker. They ask fewer questions. They turn on each other instead of looking up at who is pulling the strings. Now place yourself inside that landscape. Every time you make a brave decision, every time you refuse to act from panic, every time you choose integrity when manipulation would be easier, you are doing more than surviving, you are silently sabotaging the main infrastructure their power depends on. You become a walking short circuit in the fear grid. Someone hears your story and thinks, if they can walk away from that and still be okay, maybe I don't have to stay trapped either. Someone watches you tell the truth and realizes their own silence is not the only option. That tiny shift in one heart doesn't show up on voting charts or stock indexes, but it terrifies people who understand how fragile control really is. They know courage is contagious. One person who is no longer bullied by fear can become 10, then 100, then an atmosphere where threats stop working. That is why you scare world leaders more than you realize, not because you are planning a coup, but because you are living proof that a human being can stand in the middle of their carefully manufactured anxiety storm and still move according to something higher than terror. You are not just resisting fear, you are slowly making it obsolete wherever you go. There's a reason you feel like you've run a marathon even on days when nothing dramatic happened. Your body is still learning how to live as someone the system quietly flagged as uncontrollable. The headaches, the random waves of exhaustion, the sudden urge to disappear from social media, the sense that rooms get heavier when you walk in, those aren't proof that something is wrong with you. They're the side effects of carrying a nervous system that refuses to bend while everything around it is engineered to make people fold. You've been walking under higher voltage than most people can imagine, constant micropressures to shut up, to conform, to soften, to laugh off what you know is serious. You notice details others ignore, you feel tensions they numb out, you sense when you're being handled instead of heard. So of course you sometimes feel too intense, too tired, too much. That's how it feels to be fully awake in a culture that numbs itself on purpose. Instead of diagnosing yourself as broken, start reading these symptoms as what they really are, the wear and tear of a soul that has been standing its ground under invisible fire. World leaders get security details and closed-door briefings to help them cope with the pressure of their choices. You've been carrying the pressure of your choices alone. No wonder your body occasionally hits the brakes. That doesn't mean you failed. It means you've reached the point in the mission where recovery is not optional drama, it's required maintenance for someone operating at your level of truth. From this point on, your job is not to prove your strength to anyone in a suit or behind a podium. You already did that without knowing. Your job now is to build a daily protocol that lets you live long, not just loud. First rule: treat your body like equipment on a critical mission. Rest is not laziness, it's recalibration. Sleep when you can, hydrate more than feels necessary, simplify your schedule instead of volunteering for every battle that invites you. Second rule: stop explaining your integrity to people who benefit from your confusion. If someone keeps trying to talk you out of what you know is right, they have already chosen their side. You don't owe them a debate. Third rule: guard your attention like classified information. Limit how much fear-based news, outrage, and gossip you allow into your mind each day. Those are the tools they use to reinstall the old software you already broke. Fourth rule: celebrate every small act of courage as if it were headline news. The message you didn't send in anger, the boundary you calmly held, the truth you told even while your voice shook, those are the exact moves that scared world leaders in the first place. Finally, remember this: you are not here to be perfect, you are here to stay honest. Some days you will feel strong and clear. Other days you'll just get through the basics without betraying yourself. Both count. Both keep you in the category their files secretly fear, a civilian who cannot be steered by fear or flattery. If you've ever noticed how certain authority figures get louder, harsher, or strangely nervous around you when you stay calm, you've already seen this part in action. Their whole training is built on provoking predictable reactions: panic, apology, defensiveness, collapse. When you remain grounded, when you answer firmly but respectfully, when you refuse to be baited into screaming matches, when you hold your line without shaking, they lose their favorite script. In crisis simulations, they can model crowds that riot or crowds that freeze, but they have no data for the person who hears the threat, feels the fear, and still speaks from a place of inner clarity. That calm unsettles them more than any shouted slogan. It means you're not hypnotized by the show. You can see the moving parts behind the curtain, and you're not impressed. So they may try to label you as cold, uncooperative, arrogant, anything that makes your steadiness sound like a flaw. Don't fall for it. That composure is not detachment, it's hard-earned discipline after walking through enough chaos to know that screaming rarely changes the truth. Your calm in the room is the exact quality that made you dangerous to their equations. It's the quiet signal to anyone watching that fear does not have to run the conversation. And deep down, the people clinging to their positions know it. As long as there are citizens who can look power in the eye without flinching or flattering, no regime ever fully owns the future. So imagine that hidden board one last time. Your name is no longer under to be neutralized or to be recruited. It sits alone in a quiet corner of their system under a label they don't say out loud but feel every time they scroll past it. We still don't know what to do with this one. They keep your file not as a trophy, but as a warning. A reminder that for all their surveys and scenarios, there are still human beings who will choose conscience over comfort, truth over safety, and mission over image. That's why, in ways you'll never fully see, you scared world leaders. Not because you stormed a building, but because you refused to let fear own your decisions when nobody was watching. On your side of the story, you're just trying to survive, to heal, to make the next right move with the little you have. But from a higher angle, your whole life has been a quiet declaration that control has limits and courage still exists. If this message felt less like a video and more like someone reading your classified file out loud, take that as your confirmation. You are not dramatic. You are not too much. You are exactly as serious as the pressure that has tried and failed to bend you. If you want to anchor this in, drop a 777 in the comments so the world can see how many of us refuse to live scared, and share this with someone who needs to remember their own courage. Subscribe and turn on all notifications if you want more messages that speak to the part of you data can't measure. And if you ever choose to hit join or support this channel in any way, know this: it doesn't buy you a miracle, it simply helps keep this kind of truth alive for people who are still out there, thinking they're alone in a war they're secretly winning just by staying honest.